Welcome to the My Inner Tiger podcast. I'm your host, Sydney D. Camella. I'm also a wife, mother, master life coach, course creator, and spiritual Sherpa. Over the past few years, I have overcome extreme anxiety, depression, addiction, infertility, and chronic illness. And as a result, I've made it my life's mission to teach other women like you that no matter what battle you're up against, you have an inner tiger, a power within to create and manifest whatever your heart desires. If you are tired of being a victim and ready to be boss of your life, you have come to the right place. Each episode, I'm going to share tools, teachings, and techniques I have used and taught countless other women so that together we can create a life beyond our wildest dreams. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your inner tiger is just waiting to be unleashed. I'm so happy you've tuned in. Let's get started. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the My Inner Tiger podcast. I am beyond thrilled to share this episode with you because it touched my heart so deeply. I'm interviewing Angelica Alen from Australia, and her story is just truly compelling. Angelica was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer in 2018 at only 38 years old. And instead of focusing on the negativity that surrounds the world of cancer, she decided to see cancer as an opportunity to change everything in her life. And that is exactly what she did. Angelica's beautiful message is about going within and overcoming fear. And that's both fear of living and the fear of dying. It's also about truly connecting with your body and finding compassion and forgiveness of yourself. And finally, it's about surrender and letting go of control. And no matter what challenges you are facing right now, that is exactly what we all need to hear. Angelica is now completely cancer-free and living her purpose as a transformational coach to help others live the life of their dreams. I was so moved by this conversation, and I know you will be too. So get cozy and enjoy this magical episode. I am so excited about today's guest, Angelica Alen. Welcome to the My Inner Tiger podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Sydney, for inviting me. I am super excited to be here. I really am.
I'm so excited to have you. So let me just start by telling everyone how this conversation came to be. I am in a Tony Robbins community Facebook group online, and Angelica is in there as well. And I was just scrolling through Facebook, and her post in the group popped up, and I was just totally intrigued by it. As you heard in the intro, she has an incredible, powerful story, and that's what she was sharing in that post. And I just immediately, like without questioning it, sent her a DM and was like, I have a podcast about healing and triumph and blah, blah, blah. Would you like to be a guest on my podcast? And so here we are. She said yes, and I'm very thrilled about that. So let's just dive right in. And Angelica, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the story of what it was like when you first got diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed after having an emergency surgery. When I went into hospital, even with kind of the symptoms didn't really show anything that was going to be a stage 3 bowel cancer. And the way that I looked, the doctors did not suggest that there was going to be anything serious. Because I just presented myself as not feeling a bit like under the weather, like not feeling a bit queasy, and they were like, oh, have you eaten something? It was kind of lots of questions, but they were like, you don't have any family history, any underlying conditions. So when they put me through the CT scan and they saw that my bowel was full of poo, sorry for the description here, on one side, and the bowel had gone inside itself on the other side. They still didn't say it was going to be cancer. They still kind of thought, it could be a polyp. But obviously when they went in, they realized that part of the bowel that had gone inside itself, it was actually cancer. They took probably about 20 centimeters off my bowel and rejoined. I was really lucky that they were able to do that, so I didn't have to have a bag. And as soon as I came out of the surgery, which was a very long surgery, the doctor confirmed that it was stage 3 bowel cancer and that I would need to have chemotherapy. And I was lucky that my husband was next to me when they dropped that bomb. And I just remember saying to the doctor, but I have 2 kids, as if this was going to save me from having that diagnosed. And he kind of said to me, like, you'll be fine. And he left the room. I was left like I could not even think. I had just come out of the surgery. My poor husband, I don't know how he coped with that, because he had to go home and look after the kids. I reached out to God and I asked God, like, why there's not in an anger way, but in a way of, why something so serious, why stage 3, why cancer? And God answered me very calmly. I have been trying to tell you things. I have been trying to tell you to stop, and you haven't listened. And I think I left that conversation there and then, because I don't think I could cope with anything else on that particular day. I was very, very scared for a month, probably mostly for 2 weeks, because I had a month to recover to start chemo. So from that point on was like being discharged from hospital and getting ready to start chemotherapy in another month. And those first 2 weeks, I was in a very, very dark place. All I could think was my funeral, my kids, life without me, they growing up without me, them finishing school without me, them getting married without me. And it was very, very difficult. I went to bed every day crying, asking. I was desperate. I was, my husband, I would be saying to him, I just want to survive for my kids. This is, going back to that is, yeah, it's crazy how, how much my mindset had to change from that place. And there was a day that I spent probably crying the whole day. My husband had left to the beach with the kids. And in that day, I kind of cry my whole life's worth almost, and all the sadness and all the self-pity, whatever you want to call. And on that day, after they came back from the beach, I kind of said to myself, I'm ready, I'm ready to tackle this and I'm ready to go for it. And that was, probably a week before I had to meet my oncologist. And, they told me the plan, which was to have, as he described, the strongest chemotherapy my body could take, because I was very young and he just needed to zap everything that was inside my body to leave nothing behind. So, so that was the message that I got on that first meeting with the oncologist, and then my journey started, with that process.
Yeah. So this is where I want to hear where it gets good. So tell me more about the journey and how things turned around for you.
So the first, I had 12 sessions, supposedly to be every 2 weeks. But your body can't take that every 2 weeks. It's a very, very strong. After the first one, I felt like I was on those, transporting movie that, they get a shot of some sort of like heroin and you're just like laying and looking at the sky, like the ceiling. Like I felt like that for 5 days. I did not move from bed. Like I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't speak to anyone on the phone. I could barely speak. Like I would just get up, eat my food, go back to bed. And my husband would be like, oh, do you want to go for a walk? And I'll be like, nah. Do you want to listen to music? No. Do you want to watch TV? No. I could not move for 5 days. And I kind of said to myself, how the heck is my body supposed to get another 11 of those?
Mm.
And I just couldn't imagine how that was going to be possible physically and emotionally. But as soon as I started being able to get up, I started, to going for walks. And, like I listened to one of your podcasts and you said, I would make a point to walk every 20 minutes a day. And I would just drag myself and I would go for a little walk as, like for as long as I could. And I started devouring books about nutrition, and I started slowly changing my diet and just really focusing on what I could do physically to help my body. And within that, the first, I had already, after the second, when I was supposed to receive the second dose, I had a delay, I had a sore throat, and, you can't get any chemotherapy when you're not well. And that was, the journey of disappointment and having to be super strong in your mindset, because the setbacks were huge. They were everywhere, every minute. And I realized,
Gosh, I can so relate to
yeah.
that. Oh, I can so relate to that in my journey. I'm getting chills, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
And you had to be, at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when they used to say to me, like, you can't have your chemo because you're so focused on like, oh my God, I want to have the second one, I want to have the third one, I want to have the fourth one so I can finish with this. But when they tell you you can't have it, you feel like a failure. I'm like, but I'm doing everything I can. I'm exercising it. At that point I was, really going for walks every day. I was already changing my diet and I was doing everything that I possibly thought I could. And when they tell you you can't have it, you have another week that you need to wait. It's very, very frustrating. And it puts your whole life like in a hold as well, because it means that you're going to be longer in that whole chemotherapy process. Anyway, like after I was constantly searching for ways, like I said, to improve my physical health. And I started every day changing something about my eating habits and introducing different types of exercises. I started doing yoga at home. I realized that I couldn't go out because that was getting me more susceptible to getting sick, like even with colds and coughs and things like that. So I self-quarantined myself, which was a beautiful process, to be honest. It was what I needed. And looking back, it was a perfect, at that time, I was not even on Facebook, and I think that was a blessing in disguise. I had no distractions, and all of a sudden I felt it was just me, myself, and I at home. When my family would leave, to school, my husband to work and to kindy, and I was just left with myself for the first time. and and
Wow.
I remember, doing a yoga practice and sitting. And when, like the teacher says, now, connect to your body and speak to your body and to yourself. And I just kind of thought to myself, who the fuck am I? Like I'm just like, how did I even get here? Like, how did this even happen to me? I don't even know who I am anymore. And that led me to a lot of a long emotional healing journey, which, as you know you are very passionate about, and I am too. And I am very blessed that our paths have crossed, and I feel that you are an amazing person to have gone through, because I know it's not an easy path to go through. And I started just having to really dig deep. I knew my cancer was very much about healing a deep resentment that I held on against my family, my parents, and I knew that I needed to let that go. But I must admit that at the beginning, I was focused on my physical health and I could not deal with it. Like the thought of it, I was just like, I don't even know where to start this. I have so much anger inside me, so much resentment. And I know I need to forgive, but I just don't know how. And this is when, for me, I believe in God. I got really close to God, and I reached out to help, and I said, you need to help me because I don't know how to do this. And I just don't know if I can. I mean, I knew I couldn't do it by myself. And I remember we were talking about this a little bit before we push play today. I did a meditation with an online cancer symposium that I was listening to, and the person said, put the hand on your cancer and ask your cancer why you're here. And when I did that exercise, it was so powerful because I could hear my cancer screaming at me, anger. And I knew that I needed to let go of all the anger and rage that was inside of me. And I needed to work through that. There was only not a pattern, but there was also something that I needed to get out of my body, like a bowl of energy that I needed to get out of my body if I wanted to heal myself. So I started working through that, by journaling, starting to listen to people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, understanding patterns, emotions, and feelings. Bear in mind that all of that was happening while I was still at home. I did not want to, go out too much because of, the issue of getting delays in my chemo. I was very much focused on, me for the first time in 20 years. There was no distractions. I would wake up every day and I would ask myself, what can I do to heal my body today? What can I eat to heal my body? What can I listen to that will help my mind? What can I do today to help my soul? And there were just the 3 questions that I ask myself every day. And I didn't focus on anything else. I didn't focus on looking at my bank account, cleaning the house, nothing. It was just like, all of these things that we get distracted with, like on the day-to-day life. I was just focused on me for 7.5 months.
Wow.
And I think that was really the key of my success. Like at the end of it, that was really key for me finishing 12 sessions of chemo feeling stronger than I started, because my focus was relentless. Like I would just be like literally every day thinking about that. And I would drag myself, like you said, going for walks. And slowly with each session, instead of getting weaker, I started getting stronger. And instead of having 5 days in bed, I would have 4 days in bed. Instead of having 4 days, I would have 3 days. And, and by the end of the 2 weeks, I would just be like going for it. I had my bike on a, at home, like in those, like a winch. I forgot what they're called, like when you put on a bike on a stand, and I would just be going for it. I would be doing weights. I would be going for runs. I would just be like going for it. And I would just keep doing that, every time that I was hit with a chemotherapy treatment. I will, even though my worst days, I'll drag myself for a walk, and I would just be increasing the exercise every single day. And but yeah, we talked about again something, before we push play today, which I think is really important to highlight. I am a doer, and I'm very much like a type A personality that needs to be, like doing everything I can for everything. And on my after my third treatment, they had told me, look, you're probably going to go into menopause during chemo, because that's what chemo does for people. So don't worry about that. Because I had, previous to my diagnosis, I was iron deficient, and they thought that, my iron deficient could have been because I was having heavy periods. And they said, don't worry about that. You're probably not going to get any periods. So I had a period which almost killed me, and I was bleeding to death. So by the time I presented myself to emergency, I had 0 white cells. My red cells were not recovering, and I had to have 2 bags of blood plus a bag of iron, and it's still my body wasn't recovering. And every day I would wake up and I would be asking the nurses. I couldn't see my kids because I was completely like in the isolation. And I was in a cancer ward, so kids couldn't even go there. And I would wake up and I would be asking the nurses, what are my levels? What are my white cell levels? What are my red cells? Are they going up? I would just be like desperate to know what was happening to my body. And I would be like walking around the room, doing my exercises in the room. And I would just be like going crazy. What else can I do? And the oncologist would come every day and say, unfortunately, your levels are not coming up, and, you just have to stay here. And I'll be so disappointed, like so disappointed and so sad, like I just wanted to go home. And there was one day that this doctor came in like by herself in the afternoon, and she spoke to me in Spanish, which was quite interesting because I thought that at that moment she came in not to be a doctor, but to be a friend. And she said, Angelica, you need to let go. You just need to stop waking up every day and asking the nurses for your levels. You need to stop, thinking that you can do something to change, your white cells levels and your red cells level. You need to think that there is literally, this is the best place for you to stay and be right now. Because if you get out there, you're going to die. And there is absolutely nothing you can do to change that. And at that moment, he just hit me like a brick wall. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the message. I've just got to let go. And, for me, it was so hard to let go because, I'm such like a doer, and I'm always constantly looking for the solution and what can I do? And, like taking the matters to my own hands. But at that moment, I realized, my journey was about letting go. And at the moment I let go, I remember I had like one of those you know, like novels that they give out in the hospitals, like terrible novels. And I just thought, I'm just going to read my book. And I started reading the book. And, the next day my levels went up. And 2 days later, I left the hospital.
Gosh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Chills. And I want to intervene here just a little bit. As Angelica and I were talking before we hit record, we were comparing notes here on our stories, and both of us could relate so much to the idea of just surrendering and letting go. And I was telling her that this is something I learned very early on in my kidney failure journey, or my kidney journey. We'll not call it kidney failure. Just
Yeah.
kidney journey. And I've since like forgotten about it. I went back to such a typical pattern for me of doing and doing and doing and doing and looking outside of myself. And I just this afternoon, before even talking to Angelica, had a beautiful conversation with someone who reminded me that in order for me to get where I need to be with my numbers, I need to let go. And so this message, I think, is just so huge for anyone listening, no matter what you're going through. The best thing you can do is surrender. It's the best way it's the way to manifest whatever it is you're trying to manifest. Would you agree with that, Angelica?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And when you say that, I think it's that, when you said to me before we started recording, you said, no, I know my kidneys are going to heal. I had that unshakable knowing inside of me that I was going to be fine and well. and that I was going to be healthy. I never thought to myself, I'll be happy to finish chemo. For me, it was just like chemo was just a part of the process. I knew I was, my mindset was like, I'm creating a new body, and I'm creating a new mind, and I'm creating a new soul here. I'm like rubbing off everything that I've done so far, and I'm starting all over again. This is my opportunity to start my life again.
Yes. Gosh.
And I had that, feeling inside of me the same way as you do. And when I look back at my life, when you had the two times that I had that, it's that fine balance of knowing and obviously still doing things to get yourself there, but having faith.
Yes.
If I know it's a hard conversation to have, because not many people believe in God or have a belief, but having that unshakable, like knowing inside you that you are going to be okay, or that you are going to get where you want to be. And that is the part that that's where you have to kind of almost like lay your surrender in, on that.
That is exactly right. You said that so well. It's the faith. It's the unshakable faith that is going to get you where you need to be always. And how do we dive into that? We let go. We surrender.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for me, it was, when people talk about like, oh, keep fighting cancer and fighting cancer, I never used those words. I embraced cancer.
Yeah.
I embraced cancer,
right. Exactly,
as an opportunity for me to start all over again. When I always think, like, when people have heart attacks, they don't get another chance. I got another chance. I got another chance to live and to recreate my life. And for me, it was never a fight. I mean, in actual fact, when I thought about the word fight, I had been fighting with life my whole life, and I was tired of fighting.
wow. Yeah.
So I did not want to fight anymore, and for me, it was like, I need to embrace this, and I need to, and I'm, and this sounds cliche, but I am very grateful for cancer, because if it wasn't for cancer, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have changed everything that I've changed, my diet, the way I live, my lifestyle, my emotional patterns, like the ripple effect in my family, my kids, and, my husband, and our relationship, and everything, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for cancer. So I embrace it all. And I just took this opportunity to start all over again.
Right. Oh, such a beautiful story. I have you ever heard of Anita Morjani?
Yes, you mentioned about her book, right? Like, I know her story, and I've seen her speaking, but I have never read her book.
Oh, you will love her book. Oh, her book is so good. And I listened to it on Audible, and what's funny is your voices are very similar. So when I hear you talking, I'm like, she sounds so much like Anita. That's so weird. And their story is a little similar. So
Yeah.
that's a
Oh.
phenomenal book. I highly recommend it to anyone, actually. And what she had the same message as, her whole life she was striving and trying and fighting to be someone and something that she thought she needed to be. And when she finally surrendered to, just letting it all go, when she had a near-death experience and realizing, this was all about me letting go of all of that stuff and just learning to surrender into myself, into being me, that I don't have to try or do anything. I just have to be me and embrace that. And God, the message is just so beautifully written too. So, but that is the message for anyone, and for anyone listening. You don't have to have cancer or kidney problems or a health diagnosis. Anything that you're going through right now, that you're struggling with, just in what way can you let it go and just trust and have faith that, God, the universe has your back, because it does. And I promise you that when you release all of that need to be in control, you will find your answers on the other side of that. You will find your peace, you will find your healing, and you will find yourself, right? So
Yeah, definitely. I so agree with that. And, when I first started my journey, obviously I wanted to live for my kids because, they were only 6 and 4. And, um, and for me, it was, I just have to do everything that I can to survive for them. And I remember I picked up a book on the library. Like I didn't even know what it was about. I just thought I want to read a book about mom who's had cancer, how moms do this, like this whole chemotherapy thing. And interesting enough, the two books that I picked up, they were mums, and one of them had stage 4 bowel cancer. And this lady didn't do anything to change her lifestyle, and she died. I stopped reading the book because, and I hate you, and probably this is going to resonate with you, Sydney. I hate starting something and not finishing, but that book I had to stop reading because I knew she was going to die. And I remember, in the book she's talking about, and my daughter, she's staying, and she's really, I read her diary, and she's really scared that I'm going to die. And I had this feeling like if something happens to me, I want my kids to know that I have tried everything I could to survive, that I've done everything in my power, and my kids saw me, getting up every day, exercising, and they still see that. If we're in a party and they say, Mom, do you want to try the cake? And I'll say, no, I don't. And they say to me, Mom, you can eat a little sometimes, like sugar, or they know all about it. And I said, I know I can, but it's Mom's choice not to. So like I wanted them to have this this vision of me, that I had tried everything that I could. But as I mentioned to you, when I stayed at home by myself and self-quarantining myself, and I started getting to know who I really was, and I started spending time with myself, I shift from wanting to live for them to wanting to live for me.
I can relate to that too.
Yeah. And that was just such like, a wake up call. And I have always kind of spent life running away from my own self. Like it was this journey of walking back to myself again.
Right.
Getting to know who I really was and being inside my body, being inside myself.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what meditation does for me. And my journey was very similar, when I was going through all this, and I just dedicated myself to going every single morning to the beach for a long time and meditating and having these crazy magical experiences out there, and just really getting in touch with myself, my higher self. And yeah, exactly like you're saying, that was some of the biggest transformation for me. I mean, that was probably the key, right? Was meditation. That was, without meditation, I'd never be where I am today. But that's the way, and yoga, right? That these are ways that you just get quiet. And that's a big message that I always have, is how can you get quiet? Because we just don't get quiet. We just don't do it.
Yeah.
Especially us moms. I mean, and in the society today with technology and everything is just so moving so fast, and you got so many things on your plate constantly. It's like we never get quiet, and it's driving people to drink a lot more and eat a lot more, and just find all these outlets. And the answer is within. It's going within.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think that so many learnings from what you just said now. All the drinking, I mean, I binge drink for 15 years nonstop, and I used to love drinking alcohol, and I used to love getting drunk. I mean, that's the reality of it. But nobody's going to classify you as an alcoholic unless you are living on the street and lose everything you have, right? But I had to acknowledge that I didn't have a good relationship with alcohol, and I needed to make a decision, like, do I want to keep drinking or not? And in some of my in my meditation practice these days, which I meditate every day in the morning, first thing in the morning, I get so high, and I wish I had I had learned that in my early 20s.
Right? Oh, I get so high. Yes.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Like I get higher than if I drank, like 15 beers. This is incredible.
I know. I know. And I like crave, that's one of the reasons I crave going to yoga is just, I love doing it. But then at the end, the Savasana, I'm always so high during Savasana. Like the instructors always have to like, peel me off the floor at the end because I'm just like in it, And if I had only known the magic in meditation, geez, I could have saved myself a whole lot of hurt over all these years.
That's for sure. Yeah. And like I said, like I think people overcomplicate like, healing as well. Like, I think you're right. We have the answers within ourselves. And I spend a lot of time speaking to my body and building this beautiful connection with my body that, like, while I'm saying this, I can feel in my body that my cells are listening to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, this is how strong the connection has become because I have cultivated that connection.
Oh,
and I know it sounds crazy.
No,
but
totally. That does not sound crazy to me. I get that 100%. Yeah. And I've been in places where I feel the same way about my cells, literally my cells. I can see them just, multiplying and regenerating. Yeah. And the funny thing is, and I'm just loving that I'm talking to you right now, because honestly, I've moved away from that lately. The past few months, maybe 6 months or so, I haven't been as in touch with my body as I used to be. So this is like totally divine timing that all of this, I mean, it always is, right? But this feels really good in my soul that we're having this conversation right now. Because it's exactly what I personally need to hear. And I know that there's people listening that feel the same way. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember reading a book with Deepak Chopra. I love Deepak Chopra. And he asked a question, who do you think is the most intelligent, the body or the mind? And we're tempted to say the mind, right? And he said the body's it is more intelligent than the mind. The body has all the answers.
Yep.
And we don't realize that, the body's holding on to all the feelings and the emotions and the patterns all comes from the body.
Yep.
And the mind is just like this jumping monkey that it's kind of going crazy inside our heads.
Yeah.
And, some of us have more control of it than others, but really all of those memories comes from the body. And if the messages that we're sending to our bodies are not messages of love, of quietness, of stillness, of compassion, which I had to work very, very much towards, having self-compassion, forgiveness, and all of those beautiful things, if the messages that we're sending is like, I've got to do more, I'm not enough. I'm angry at this person. I'm angry at that. I'm blaming this. I'm blaming that. Why me and all of that? Then our bodies get tired and our bodies start screaming at us like mine did to me. And the body says enough is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, another way to say that it's all stored in the body is it's all stored in the subconscious. So your subconscious is what is running your show, and your subconscious is the keeper and the logger of everything that you've done, seen, smelled, tasted, experienced, all of that, all the things that you've said to yourself. This is the way that you talk to yourself, the thoughts that you allow into your mind. All of this gets logged in your subconscious, and it acts right out of all of those things. And that's why retraining your subconscious through affirmations, and, not just affirmations, but deep affirmations where you're not just saying things, but you're feeling them, and just retraining your brain, retraining your thoughts, which starts with the awareness. And then it moves into just practicing, right? Changing all of the information, the things that are coming into your subconscious, changing that. And then subsequently, what you start becoming, right? This better version of yourself, this more free, peaceful version of yourself, and your body starts acting the same way. Your body starts to regenerate more, your body starts to heal itself more. It's all just a natural flow of energy, right? So
yeah, totally agree. And I think that it's a process. Like when people ask me, what's the one thing that you did? There isn't one thing. And I am a firm believer in what matters is what you do each day. Like we were talking a little bit before, I know you have tried a way more different practices than I have. And I think, because I had to self-quarantine myself, I had to do everything on my own, like at home. And I did all my exercise from home, my yoga, the changing food and the diet. I did it all on my own because it was out of necessity. At the end of my treatment, I went to see a counselor, a psychologist, which helped me tremendously with especially, letting go of the resentment that I held on against my parents. But I went to a reflexologist. But really, the core of my healing was me taking 100% responsibility of what I was doing each day. And because I did that, I started making those little shifts at the subconscious level, like you said. It wasn't one thing. If you're eating healthily, you're sending messages of love to yourself. People think like, oh, if I go to McDonald's, I'm sending a message of love to myself because it's what I want, like it's my pleasure food. It's like, no, that's rubbish. And you're putting rubbish inside your body, like, and the messages that you're sending to yourself is that you are not worth of good food. So I think every little thing that you do starts compounding into changing at a subconscious level of the person who you are. Every meditation that you do, every yoga session that you do, every walk that you do, everything that you do. But I think that people think that there is one thing, and sometimes they think that if they go somewhere, somebody else are going to do that for them. And I think it's very important. I think what matters the most is what you do each day for you.
absolutely. Absolutely. So it's the baby steps that count. It's the baby steps. It's not the one big thing. And as a society as well, we are so conditioned to quick fixes. We want everything right now. We want it in a pill. I mean, even just the whole pharmaceutical industry has got us convinced, just get this vaccine and you'll be fine. Just take this pill and you'll be fine. And everything's going to be fine. Just do this one thing and you'll be great. Right. And we're so conditioned to feeling like, that's the answer all the time. And it's not. The answer is to, like we said before, get quiet and go within. But that's a commitment that takes baby steps every single day, just one little piece, bite off one little piece every single day. And then all of a sudden, one day you're going to wake up and be like, wow, I've come a long way. I didn't even notice it. My life is so different.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I think that the instant gratification, the quick fixes, like the, diets, shakes, intermittent fasting, all of that stuff there is always a gimmicky thing, like do this and you're going to solve all your problems. Um, I think that it's sad that people still fall for that because, if you don't come to the realization, like, myself, if I hadn't come to the realization that it took me 38 years to abuse my body so much to get to stage 3 bowel cancer, that was going to take me a while to heal completely. And I still take healing as seriously as I did when I first started. If anything, I take it even more serious because I kept changing my diet. I still change my habits. I still tweak things around. I made myself a promise that I was never, never going to compromise on my health again. And I don't do that. this is like a promise that I made for myself, and I just live up to this promise every single day. And I still feel like I'm still healing. Who am I to think that I'm not? I finished chemo in 2018 in November. I had a hysterectomy in February 2019. It's only been like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Right. We're not.
But people just want to, people just want like, oh, that's it. I've done this, and I'll be fine. And I don't need to do anything else. I can go back and eating burgers and fries every day. It's like, well, no.
I know. I have to tell a funny little story just to reiterate the fact that I'm so not perfect. Well, not that anyone would have thought that, but when we just got back from vacation in the mountains, and I've been basically a vegetarian, I would say vegan on and off, but vegetarian ever since I started really trying to heal my body, which has played a big role in it. And I had come so far, and we were on vacation, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna eat meat. I'm just gonna have this Cuban because I used to love Cuban sandwiches. And so I was like, whatever, I've come so far, it won't hurt me. And who knows if it really did or not, but like I told you before we started recording, my numbers did go up a little bit. So that could have had something to do with it. The fact that I ate pizza and a Cuban on our recent vacation, like I can't do that. And so I'm totally with you, but it's so hard. You want to treat yourself to these pleasures that we think are going to be pleasures, but they're really not. They're so instant. We do it, and then we've done it, and then we're like, well, that wasn't really worth it.
Yeah.
So I admire your cake story.
Yeah, I mean, I have these visions that, I don't know, I used to love cheese, like when I, like the blue cheeses, like with mold and stuff, like I just look at this stuff now and I just think about this blob of fat in my gut, obviously when I had my cancer, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'll pass that. Like,
right. It really
so I I made myself these stories in my head that, just to help me to. And look, I think you're right. Like when you, if by any chance, like I go somewhere and, like a party, and I'll eat something, I just instantly feel terrible. Like, because your body gets used to a certain level of healthiness. It's pretty hard as well. Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't see anymore like, hard to say, it's again, it's a habit thing, right? Is it really a habit thing, that you kind of need to, to start with baby steps. And again, I never went on a diet. I never did anything overnight. I stopped eating processed sugar. Then I started, buying organic vegetables. Then I was still eating meat during my treatment. I don't eat meat anymore. But like, it's a process. I think everything that you want to fix overnight, it's a problem, because then you fall back into your old ways, and then you get disappointment, and you get into this cycle. And I've never liked diets. I think diets are, obviously diets don't work. It's a proven fact, right? And I think that, just the word in itself, it feels restrictive. Like I eat a lot, I eat all the time, but I eat the right things. And I am in the best shape of my life at 42 years old, not because I diet, but because I just eat the right things.
I think,
and everything that
I think the key with diet, and this can be a whole nother podcast, but it still always comes back to getting quiet and learning to get to know yourself and loving yourself. Because when you love yourself, and when you know how worthy you are of good things, you don't want to put garbage into your body.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
it's a whole mindset. And that goes back to the daily practices. I think the most important daily practice is to get quiet with yourself, whether that's meditation and or journaling or gratitude practices or yoga or whatever it is, to quiet your mind, get to know yourself. I mean, you said it so beautifully. You had to quarantine with yourself for 7.5 months. I mean, that's a long,
Yeah,
amazing time to, that's like boot camp, boot camp to get to know
it
yourself.
was boot camp. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And it wasn't comfortable, it wasn't comfortable. And I think it's, um, it's important to highlight to people. It's at first it will feel strange because if you are not used to spending time with yourself, of course you're going to feel like, who are you? But like, how can you get to know a friend if you don't spend any time with that friend? So for me, it was like that. I hadn't spent any time with myself. I was just running like a headless chicken through one thing through another without checking in with myself, checking in with my emotions, checking in with how I was feeling about anything, and just, yeah, fighting through life. And I mean, and I had to put my hand up. I think it's, for me, it was a very important part of the process. As a doer, as a type A personality, wanting to fix everything and do everything, I thought I was doing everything right. It's very easy for us to fall into the trap, like, oh, but I'm doing everything, like, especially when it comes, being a mom, I'm doing everything opposite that my parents did. I'm trying so hard not to be like my parents. I'm, I've created a different life or whatever it is. And I had to put my hand up and acknowledge that everything that I had done, it was pretty wrong. The way that I was treating myself, the way that I was being a mother, the way that I was, treating my family, just giving my all to work and leaving them with nothing. All of that was very important for me to acknowledge, to be able to change. Because if I had sat there and thinking, but I'm doing everything wrong, why me? I'm a good person. Then, that wouldn't help me to acknowledge that I had been doing a lot of things wrong.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. So you're a transformational coach now.
Yeah.
Were you a coach before cancer?
No, I used to work in recruitment. So I used.
Oh my gosh, so did I.
Did
Stop it. We have
you?
way too much in common.
Oh my God. I
We have
love
way
it.
too much in common. This is hysterical.
Oh my God. Who did you recruit? Like, did you recruit? I used to recruit for developers in
No,
IT.
I was accounting and
Oh,
finance.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did go back to my corporate job, and I loved, I had a career, like I had been in recruitment for 10 years. So it wasn't like a 5 minute job thing, like I had been, really successful in that career, and I really enjoyed. But when I went back, it was probably one of the hardest part of my whole journey as well. Like after you finish chemo, they tell you, okay, so now your treatment's finished, go back to living your normal life again. And you're like, but how do I do that? Like I've
You're like, but she died and now I'm totally something
and,
new. So that
and also it's, as you know, in recruitment, people just, like you meet them and they're complaining about their bosses and their colleagues and their jobs and their pets and their dogs. And you want to shake them and say, but I've just died. Like, be happy that you were alive. And they
yeah.
So after a year of trying to find myself, and my company had given me the opportunity to work from home and part-time and all of that, I had learned so much that I felt that I needed to, teach people what I had learned, and, teach people that it was possible to do so much for ourselves, especially in the cancer world, which is a very negative world. As soon as you say I have cancer, people just look at you in front of you and they are already planning your funeral for you. And you have to counsel them to go, no, don't worry, I'll be fine. And it gets so tiring, this exercise, that it was great that I had to self-quarantine myself because I didn't have to go through this exercise with people. But this is what the cancer world is, oh my God, you're having chemo. Oh no, that's really bad. And you're like, well, thanks. That's all I needed to hear today.
Right. No shit.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, after a year of trying, I came across Tony Robbins, and I didn't know who he was. And I would say Tony Robbins really helped me to, leave my corporate job and start my business. And it was last year in February. And initially I thought that I, could focus on helping people during cancer treatment, because I did so much during treatment that I felt, when I finished, I felt healthier and stronger than I had ever been. And I saw what was possible. But obviously, during chemo, not many people are going to do what I did, and before I would be very timid to say this, but these days I'm incredibly proud of what I did. When I finished my
Yes.
12th session, one of the oncologist nurse told me, Angelica, I'm so happy for you that you were able to finish the treatment. And I said to him, really? Like, why? And he said, because in 8 years of oncology, I have seen 4 people finishing 12 sessions.
Wow. Wow.
And I thought, oh, nobody told me this at the beginning.
Thank God they didn't.
I know. So I wanted to tell people, there's so much you can do, during chemo. But then I had a massive shift when I looked at my journey, I wanted to help kind of, the old version of myself, which was that person who was running herself to the ground or himself to the ground. So to avoid that person to get what I had been, because there was a lot of suffering and a lot of sadness, and it wasn't easy. I really reached rock bottom, and I feel that the ambulance was like on the bottom of the cliff, really waiting for me. And we don't have to get there to change. We can change beforehand. And I know most of us, unfortunately, we work like that. We need to reach a crisis to really pull ourselves together to start making changes. But it doesn't have to be like that. There was so many signs already in my body, and I don't know if you feel the same, but there was so many signs in my body, in my life, and everything that, that I said at the beginning, God was trying to wake me up, and I just didn't want to listen because I am stubborn. And this can be a positive thing, but that can also be a negative thing, right? And I feel that there is a lot we can do before we get there.
Right. Mm. Yep. That's so similar to my journey, of course, since we're realizing that we're ridiculously have so much in common. So, what happened for me was my rock bottom was it started with infertility, and that was what woke me up and set me on a couple years into dark night of the soul. And then, finally getting pregnant, which was amazing. But I thought I had kind of arrived, once I got pregnant, and I was like, oh, great. I went through that really hard place in life. I'm good. I've got a message to share. Like, I thought my message was going to be great with, hitting rock bottom and, detoxing your whole body. And, finally you get rewarded with something you've been dreaming about, like you manifested it and it's just wonderful. And then boom, I just didn't see that coming. But it was my major wake-up call was the kidney experience. And so it really, basically I almost died. And I'm pretty sure that my old self really did stay behind in that hospital. I was in the hospital for a month, and when I left, I was a new person. It was a journey to, I was sick for a very long time, but, you know, even one of my closest friends said, you are not the same person as you were before you got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not. And, she's like, energetically, I see it as just an entirely different human being.
Yeah.
And so I've felt that. And ever since then, I've been, like you said, on a mission to help others, learn that they don't have to go through such a terrible experience to change their lives, to find themselves, to break free from the old habits of stress and anxiety that totally plague you. And then not knowing yourself and not, knowing how to have peace. And so, same page as you.
Yeah, that totally resonate. I don't know if you know, but I had an ectopic pregnancy before my, the cancer. So I had an ectopic pregnancy. I lost an ovary and a tube, and they told me you have half chance of getting pregnant now. And I was already 30, 31. And obviously that made me really think, at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to have kids. And I feel that now when I look back, it was again God working on my life to say, well, if you're not sure, and if you're playing with your destiny, and if you're playing with something so serious, I'm just gonna maybe have to give you a little nudge to see if you're gonna do something about it. And and I finally decided, no, I want to have kids. And when my husband and I started trying, I remember my husband getting really upset about it, and I kind of said to him, look, I don't want to like become super stressed about this. Let's just like let go. Somehow I kind of didn't really get too obsessed about that. And in 4 months, I got pregnant, and I was really blessed and lucky, got pregnant, had my son. And then when I stopped breastfeeding him, when he was about 1.5 years, I got pregnant again from my daughter, and I had the worst pregnancy ever, all signs from my body. I had 9 months of like sickness, proper sickness. I'll be, going to work, in between meetings, I'll be like throwing up. It was horrible. And I had gestational diabetes, again, another sign of my body. And I just didn't listen to any of that, went back straight, kept being stressed out to the bone, kept, just abusing my body, not looking after my body, didn't do any exercise, and, and all of that. And when I got diagnosed with stage 3, I would always say, if it had been stage 1 or stage 2, I probably would have gone back straight into my crazy life again. I needed the severity of stage 3. In the same way as you said, like, I thought that the infertility had got me and had made me realize, sometimes we need the severity of something to go like, now my world has definitely stopped. And now maybe we are stubborn at the same level as well.
I'm sure of it. Yeah. Yep. I needed that catalyst. And like you said earlier, I am grateful for my, whole kidney experience. And the experience, that the road I'm still on, every day I'm learning something new and evolving so fast. I look around me and I'm like, geez, like, it's like every week I'm literally like evolving into something totally different. And every week it's like a brand new, level of awareness, and just mind blowing. And so, yeah, it's a crazy journey to be on, but it's exhilarating. And I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And what I really want, my idea is, and as yours is as well, is to just share with people how they can get this without having to have that catalyst, and that's not going to be for everybody. Some people are going to need it, and eventually they will get it. It's inevitable. Truly, it's inevitable, because your soul is we're in earth school, right? We're in earth school to learn and evolve and to grow. And if one thing doesn't get our attention, something else will. So, I'm just so grateful to have you now in my life. So I'm sure we'll be friends for a long time. And I'm so grateful you are on the show. And if anyone wants to, I will put your information in the show notes, your Facebook. I don't know if you have Instagram, but I know you have Facebook, but whatever you give me after here, I will put in there for people to just directly link over to you. Do you have is there a specific way that people can get in touch with you if they maybe want to work with you as a client, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can get in touch via Facebook, and I do have a website as well, so they can get in touch through that. So those are the best kind of way to contact me, really.
Okay, awesome. And I've seen a lot of your stuff and a lot of your client testimonies on your Facebook page, and they're beautiful. So I have no doubt that you are an amazing coach.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you are in Australia, which is a totally different time frame. And I am recording this at it's about 8 p.m. at night right now. So I probably sound a little bit different at night than I do in the morning. I usually record these in the morning. So I'm probably getting a little frog throaty, but yeah, especially if anyone is in your time zone, that would be ideal. But I'm sure that you probably work with plenty of people, in different time zones as well. So don't be afraid by the time zone by any means.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I work a lot with clients in Europe and in the US and in Canada as well. So so I think these days is not an issue at all. But yeah, no, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been amazing. It's been a beautiful, just a beautiful chat, and so glad that you reached out. I am super proud of your journey, like just by knowing you. I think it's amazing what you have done. You're such a living proof of what's possible. I am confident that you're gonna fully heal your kidneys too. I can see that you have in you to doing that. And I know that sometimes it's hard to say that, and because you put a lot of weight on, but I really feel that you have that energy, and I think that's beautiful. So keep doing what you're doing. It's beautiful that you are sharing your journey and helping other people as well. I think that's amazing.
Thank you so much, Angelica. It just warms my heart. And I feel the same way about you, obviously. It's why I wanted to bring you on here, because you totally inspire me. So thank you again for being on the show. And you guys need to reach out to Angelica. She's awesome. All right. I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of My Inner Tiger. Before you go, I'm curious to know, how many times have you tried using affirmations and gotten 0 results? I did that for years, and then I finally realized how to do it right, and that changed everything for me. And that's why I created this beautiful daily manifesto, which I'm giving to you at no cost at all. And it comes with detailed instructions on how to actually get the real change that you want. It's basically a really cute and printable list of powerful affirmations, all geared toward helping you manifest more peace and self-confidence. I mean, who doesn't want that? I have one right here in front of me on the wall in front of my desk, and then I have another one in the bathroom in front of my toilet. That way, it's a huge part of my daily life, and trust me, it makes all the difference. I am sure you will love it too. So head on over to myinnertiger.com/manifestation, or click the link in the show notes below to download your free copy. And if you loved what you heard today, please, please, please rate and review this podcast on iTunes. And finally, if you're not already, come follow me on Instagram at myinnertiger for more tips and inspiration. I can't wait to connect with you there. Now go out there and manifest your dreams, because you are absolutely worthy of everything.